Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of The Cheap Seats. It's an interesting episode today, as we had Alsakio and then somebody was actually sacked, which is really, really awesome.
Thank
But
goodness.
I've got the crew here today.
Uh,
Dean's very happy. Cyrus is back. Tempo's back. It's a very Chelsea heavy side there.
it's an
If
all
you're looking
London
on that one
podcast.
side,
It's an all
exactly.
That's
London
an all
one.
London podcast, actually.
Yeah. So before we continue, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe to our channel, because we've got lots of things going on. We cover everything. We've even got Springbok rugby on Saturday night, so you can literally listen
Ooh,
to us for like 6 hours, cricket and then rugby. So that's going
that's
to be quite
crazy.
interesting. Yes, it is. So we're trying to build this out, so please do support. Today's topic, pretty simple. The first part of the topic, Dean's going to be very happy. Nuno out, Conte in. And Dean, I'm going to just go straight to you. You fired Nuno. What went wrong? And why are you so happy today?
I said it last week, and Nuno should never have been a Spurs appointment. He never fitted the club. It felt like one of those appointments you make just because no one else was really available. It was well documented how we went after everyone and their son to try and coach our team. And he just never seemed to fit. The players didn't seem to enjoy. Obviously, there's a lot of reports coming out now of, how bad the players were reacting to him, how quiet he was, how disengaged he was with the squad, which you take with a bit of a pinch of salt. You don't know what's true and what's not. But what's come about, and I think this is the big thing, is the football we were playing under Nuno was just horrendous. Like that game against Man United on Saturday where we got slapped 3-0 for fun. I haven't been that upset after a game in a long time. And it's not so much the losing, it's the performance of it. Obviously, the losing is not great, but there was just no energy. No one looked interested. We looked like we had absolutely no idea what to do. We got the ball and it was just sideways, backwards movement. And that was, I think, after that game, obviously the fans were going mad. They were singing "Nuno, you don't know what you're doing" in the stands. So it was a rough time on Saturday. And to his credit, Daniel Levy and Paratici reacted, and they reacted quickly. After Saturday night, did I think Conte was possible? Absolutely not. I don't know what lies they've told him. If they're putting his kids through university for the rest, I don't know what they're doing. I don't care. Conte's in. We've got one of the best managers in the world at the club. You're hoping he's going to pull the players right that need to be pulled, to get the performances out of them, because the squad's not bad. We shouldn't be sitting in ninth position, fighting like mid-table. We should be a lot higher, and we've got the tools at the disposal. We just need a manager to bring it together. So Conte is the guy. Hopefully it goes well. We'll see how it happens. Every Spurs fan didn't want to believe it until we saw him holding the shirt. So at least the video's out now. It's official. Yeah, very exciting times. I'm very excited.
Cyrus, Dean was this excited when Mourinho came in. Every Spurs fan was this excited when Mourinho came in. How is this different? Or is it not?
Well, it is different. But I think it has to be said that you've got serial winner Antonio Conte there, who really knows what he wants out of a team. And he certainly goes for it every time he does. I think he's the kind of manager who, if you don't like him, you'll be out of the club, and he's okay with that. But he has to get the Spurs players on his side. And I think he's so different to what Nuno was that if there will be an immediate change when it comes to what happens with the club. The second thing for me is that Mourinho was a sort of coach on the decline by the time he got to Spurs. He was a good appointment for them in terms of the caliber of manager, but in terms of his track record up to the point that he got to Spurs, he had basically sort of sullied his reputation at that point. Not to discredit him, I absolutely love Jose Mourinho, and I'm following him closely in Italy with Roma. But I think that Antonio Conte is the kind of guy who really knows how to absolutely he sweats, bleeds, breathes everything at the club that he's at. And you will get that engagement from the fans that you didn't get from Nuno. When Nuno just stood on the sidelines rubbing his chin, Conte will be out there running up and down the touchline, getting the Spurs fans more excited than if it was St. Tottenham's Day in reverse, you know. And so it's really about what they will be able to deliver from what happens on the pitch. And this is where, to Dean's point about the playing, the squad itself, I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done to play in an Antonio Conte style than you actually almost realize. Because when you look at the United game in particular, and I had the misfortune of watching that absolute nonsense, it was a typical Spurs performance. And by the time Ronaldo scored that goal, I knew it was happening. And it happened because of the fact that Spurs have basically done what they've done for the over the years. They have terrible players in key.
Won a trophy. That's what.
To tell the truth, that doesn't bother me as much.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother me as much, because the thing about Spurs is, what are the next 5,000 days going to look like? And with Conte and the kind of players that he could potentially bring into the squad, you should see an improvement. So I don't want to see the likes of Ben Davies anywhere close to that squad. And Spurs have been leaning on the likes. You know how I felt about the likes of Harry Winks, right?
Harry Winks. Nuno drop. How does he drop Reguilon for Davies? That was.
But it was one of those where he's looking at the players around him and he's like, how the heck am I going to get anything out of this? And Conte is going to have the exact same problem. The difference will be that he will drill them so hard they won't know what's hit them. And don't be surprised to see things like Lucas Moura playing right wing back, because Conte also does some strange things, and you'll just roll with it. But what I do think, and I'll try and keep this. In fact, I thought it was going to be concise. It isn't. Conte's biggest problem at Spurs will be what happens in the midfield. And you've got Højbjerg, who is a fantastic central midfielder, who is exactly what Conte wants. He wants a sort of destroyer, somebody who can really break up play. And then who do you put next to him? Is it going to be somebody like Harry Winks, who I think is an absolute waste of space on the pitch? Is it going to be Ndombele and drop him a little further back so that you can almost have like somebody who's a ball runner? Because he sort of likes to have sort of, as they call them, the dueling sixes. And if he does play Ndombele next to Højbjerg in the middle of the park, he's going to be on Ndombele's case nonstop, because he seems to lose concentration all the time. And then going forward, what do you do with your attacking midfielder? Because we're assuming it's going to be a 4-5-3. So is that Lucas Moura? Sorry, 3-5-3. Or 3-5.
That makes sense.
3-4-3. 3-4-3.
3-5.
I think it's
3-5-2. Something. Yeah. So sort of 3-5-2. And with a sort of mobile midfielder who's going to be attacking. So then that's got to be either, dare I say, Dele Alli, who's absolutely regressed to Jermaine Genius levels, or Lucas Moura, who could potentially do it. I've been saying some bad things all podcast, so it's going to continue.
Must never play.
But I have a feeling that you're going to potentially see a free roaming Heung-min Son, which is the best kind of Heung-min Son, and then Harry Kane just take shots at goal. Let him have a pop from the corner if he needs to, and this is what Conte is going to do.
Yeah. For me, it feels like it's going to be Mourinho's formula of get the ball to Kane, but with a little bit more of a modern twist. And to a certain extent, that's going to be quite intriguing to see. I don't know how Spurs fans feel about a back three. But yeah,
not with the defenders they currently have. But it's true though, right?
Christian Romero.
Romero's
he's the only one.
Romero and Davinson Sanchez are actually pretty good players in those roles. But you need somebody who's quick. But you need somebody who's quick, who can cover some of those mistakes, and somebody who's actually good technically on the ball. And they don't have that in that squad. No. I mean, I could potentially see Eric Dyer playing as another central midfielder next to Højbjerg. But
he played that in Koch. So
yeah, look, I don't mind him as a midfielder, especially if you're looking at him and Højbjerg really destroying attacks. But who do you play behind him? Who is that? Is it Japhet Tanganga? Is he going to suddenly become like a sweeper?
That's the only centre back I will allow.
He's not that bad.
The star of
I like Tanganga.
How's Conte
young,
with youth, though?
energetic.
You guys have had him at Chelsea. How does he?
Look, he's not bad. He's not bad. and sorry, we'll let Seppo talk because he's the other Chelsea guy. He's not bad. He'll definitely allow certain youth players to work, but if you don't know what you're doing tactically, you don't expect to get on the pitch.
Teppo, from your experiences watching, obviously, Chelsea under Conte, what do you think Dean should be expecting? Or actually, here's the thing: are Spurs' I don't know odds a lot better today under Conte?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. In terms of his Chelsea team, he didn't have a forward to work with. So he had like not three wingers. Well, he had Diego Costa and he had Eden Hazard and Pedro on the other side of them, and he used them quite nicely. But I'm expecting front two similar to what he had in Inter Milan, with Lukaku and is it Hernandez?
Martinez.
Martinez.
Martinez, yeah.
Martinez, yes. Two in the front that work off each other quite nicely with the back three that play like quick counter-attacking football. So I'm expecting something like that. I'm expecting another back three. That's going to be very obvious. Everyone is moving towards a back three. How ironic that Ole actually sacked he sacked Nuno with Conte football to prevent Conte from coming to going to Manchester United, which is like, wow, that is a back three. But yeah, probably going to get a back three. I'm expecting Tanganga, Romero, and maybe Dyer at the back. Tanganga is apparently a very strong, young, energetic player, and Romero is the technical player. But if you look at what Conte has in terms of a starting 11, there are only like a few gaps that need to be filled. The left is basically sorted with a Reguilon. I don't know why Ben Davies was playing. I think Nuno wanted to be sacked. But yeah, Emerson Royale on the right, he's not bad, but that's probably going to be a place that's Conte will probably want to upgrade. We may even see Lucas Moura there. But Højbjerg, in terms of like a destroyer and also someone that can distribute like he did for Denmark when Christian Eriksen sort of was he wasn't playing anymore. He has the potential to play that quick counter-attacking football, get the ball to the front quickly, and get people into the box very quick. So yeah, Son and Kane in the front looks pretty exciting because we know their quality without a doubt. So that's going to be very exciting. Højbjerg, I rate him. I really do.
Well, yeah, look, I would actually not play Dele as the attacking midfield. I'd put Ndombele up, I'd push Dyer up, and I'd have Sanchez, Romero and Tanganga as your back three, and then you already know who your wing backs are. But let's talk money. One of the reasons why Conte, I'm assuming, said no early on because he's been available for quite a while now. Throughout the summer where you went through all the different managers and you landed up with Nuno, was largely because you could find it tough in the market because Daniel Levy's Daniel Levy. We know who Daniel Levy is. I'm hearing stories about 100 million, Dean. Firstly, is it true? And what would you spend it on in January of all places? But let's actually move from January to June. So what would you like to see Antonio do? Do you want a replication of Inter, or I don't know?
Well, I think there's two things. I think the first part is why did Conte come now? And I think he came out with a statement saying that the reason he didn't come in June was because it was too close to him leaving Inter and it wasn't right. I think everyone can see through the nonsense. Levy just didn't want to cough up the money and basically said no. And now I think the reason why we've got Conte is because Daniel Levy realized on Saturday he's about to lose the last probably revenue stream that he has, which is spectators coming into the stadium. And once he loses the fans, it's gone.
We no longer have the NFL.
Okay, take that aside. We no longer have Champions League football. We no longer have Europa League football. We're finishing 7th, so TV rights is low. We don't have any of that addition. And Spurs Stadium is the most expensive ticket in England at the moment to go and watch a game. So all of a sudden, you don't have people coming to the stadium. You're losing money left, right, and center. So they've got themselves. I have no sympathy for them because they got themselves in this situation because they could have done what they've done now in June, and it could have been fine. Now that they've basically turned to a last resort and they've got Conte, everyone knows that he's going to demand investment. And some of the names being thrown around is he wants Stephen De Vrij from Inter, which is the centre back to partner Romero, which 100% will absolutely work. He wants Dusan Vlahovic from Fiorentina, their striker. He's lighting up Serie A. So I think he would be a good replacement for Kane. Like, I think it would be interesting now to see whether Kane wants to play for Conte or if he's completely wants to move on.
No, he wants out.
So
but now
he's
he has
come
a
out
superstar manager.
Yeah,
that's the
there's
thing.
reports that say.
But what was the reason that was keeping him out, wanting him to leave Spurs in the first place? It wasn't Mourinho because you fired Mourinho.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's
why.
So if Kane goes, I reckon we go for that Dusan Vlahovic from Fiorentina. I don't know how to say his surname, so I'll learn. And then a couple of the other names are Brozovic. Obviously, he knows him quite well from Inter.
Yes, Marcelo in that midfield.
Yeah, Frank Kessie is apparently close to signing for us. I read now just before we came on. Frank Kessie from AC Milan is very close. He's a free agent next summer, so he's apparently close. And I think the reason why we're going to see a lot of bigger names now, and we've spoken about it before, is to go to Tottenham is already not an easy decision. You know, like it was well documented in summer. Jules Koundé didn't want to come to Spurs because it's Spurs. He wanted to go to Chelsea because it's Chelsea. Now that you have a big name manager, a top 3, top 4 manager in the world, automatically makes Spurs a more attractive destination. So the types of people you can attract are already that much higher than what you were under Nuno, or I would even say under Mourinho. So definitely think the types of players we'd get. I agree that the midfield needs a lot of addressing. So you would need someone to sit next to Højbjerg, and I think that Frank Kessie will be a really good option in that midfield. I think he'll make that very solid, as well as Stefan Fry in partnering Romero at the back. And up front, if Kane moves on, I think it's a like-for-like replacement with I'm going to try to say his name again, Vlahovic from Fiorentina. Vlahovic, whatever. I'm just going to call him Dusan because he's coming to Spurs already, so we're on a first-name basis. So I think those would be the 3 positions I would look for. Obviously, I think the big thing is, and a lot of people may not know this or they may do, but Paratici and Conte worked really well together at Juventus when they were both there. So Conte is very quickly going to phone him and say, listen, Dele's not playing or not performing. We need to sell wings. We need to do this. Paratici will be like, cool, go. And then they just start and they operate like that. That's what everyone is hoping will happen. And you hope that as well as bringing in the talent, there's a lot of dead wood in that Spurs squad that needs to be shipped out. Lo Celso needs to go. Winks needs to go. Dele needs to go. Dyer needs to go. Davies must, I don't care if he rots at Newcastle. Those guys have
Newcastle's not taking Davies.
Well, whoever wants to go, I just need them to leave the club. And then the one thing, and we'll address this, but it's an 18-month contract. So it's not. This is not a 10-year rebuild or 5-year rebuild. This is a fix now and hope we reap the benefits in 18 months, which is the exact same contract that Chelsea gave Tuchel with the option to extend. So it's not like this is a contract that's not common everywhere. It's it happened at Chelsea and it's working there now. Will it work at Spurs? I hope so, but we have to wait and see, and guess we'll only find out when we actually walk on the pitch.
Question for you, what do you want to see at the end of the season? Because you're still in Carabao, you're still in FA Cup, you're still playing in Conference League.
I think
what do you want to see?
At least, I think under Conte, we win Conference League. We definitely win either one of maybe the Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, I would hope. Premier League, top 4 now with United faltering, I think you have to go for that 4th position. I don't think we'll get to a Chelsea, Liverpool, City level. But But I do think then that fourth position is up for grabs, and United, West Ham are looking like the two guys that are up for that fight. And now with Conte at Spurs, I think we are in the discussion at least. So at least we need a trophy, and then top four. That's if you gave that to me now, I'd take it.
I love how you forgot Arsenal, even though they're the same level of points as the United, but it's fine.
Yeah, which Arsenal will always pull at Arsenal.
We'll remind you at that toilet seat later on in the season. Cyrus, it felt to me when I saw the Conte news and the signing that effectively Spurs were undercutting United in the managers that were available. We all knew that Sunday was El Sacchio, and whoever lost kind of was sitting on, was going to walk the plank. Was that a masterstroke by Daniel Levy?
In a way, yes. I mean, what people accused Chelsea of in our first sort of set of glory years was keeping players away from certain teams, right? Where you sign certain big names, and it always felt like, oh, you just signed them so that X, Y, and Z couldn't have them. But I think this has the knock-on effect of both making Spurs better and keeping that guy away from United. And I think that it was what necessitated Levy making the call in order to say, okay, look at how far we've fallen. We cannot afford to be so far behind them that we're a generation away from getting back to that level. So I do think that that's potentially part of what the strategy behind getting Conte in now was, and especially with having had Paratici there, because the other thing that we haven't spoken about is that if Conte had come in at the beginning of the season, he would have basically walked in hand with Paratici. Now, Paratici's been there for a while and can actually tell him, Antonio, it's not as bad as we thought it was. Basically,
We've
right?
got nice grass.
Look, the stadium's fantastic. The people there's some stuff you can work with. So he's like, okay, fine. You've seen what it's like. Okay, I'll come in, and the water is fine. So I think that's one thing that we haven't necessarily dealt with. I want to go a little further back to the reinforcement stuff that Dean was talking about in terms of players who could come in. And I know that the rumors are he's going to look at Italy and the Italian footballers and bring those guys in, and you'll definitely get that. But I think that Conte is also enough of a professional to understand that in order to play in the Premier League, you have to have Premier League experience. And so don't be surprised if the likes of the Bissoumas start, being mentioned. The Moussa Sarrs at Watford, who could potentially then be pulled in from the sort of smaller teams that are struggling to say, look, your season's over. Come on, let's just try and make things work here. So I think it's important to bear in mind that there are players who are at smaller teams who could potentially come in and be really good players at Spurs. And I always look at a team like Southampton, who somehow seem to have players who you'd be like, this guy's kind of handy, I mean, could you imagine a Tariq Lamptey on that right wing back at Spurs? He'd be spicy. So, I look at that and I just think that there's always an opportunity to look at pilfering players that, are performing well in other teams. But more so, one of the things that needs to happen at Spurs is to see what can be done to solidify this relationship with Harry Kane. Because I know that everybody knows he wants out. But Kane's looking at what's happening at City and thinking, hang on, didn't Pep say he might leave there at the end of this season or next season? And now we've got Conte here. I mean, going to City is a totally different scenario. Yes, I'll get paid well and potentially win stuff. But now we've got a manager in Conte who is a winner, who will push us. And I think these first few weeks with Conte might be the thing that turns Harry Kane around and says, you know what? I'm going to stay here. And I think that's going to be a really important factor.
I mean, sorry, if you don't mind me jumping in here, Umpo, if we're doing Mourinho comparisons, Son and Kane at the beginning of Mourinho's season were absolutely fantastic. They weren't losing games 1-0, 2-0. They were losing games like 4-3 because they were just so prolific at scoring and on the counter attack. So I would expect to see something like that. And I would expect to see Harry Kane also, pull up his socks now. He's gotten like a manager that wins trophies. And when you have a manager like that, it feels like Harry Kane, gets engaged. He's really into his football then. So, I mean, just talking about the game against Manchester United, he was nowhere. I mean, he was at the same place that Montreal normally plays, somewhere in the front lines, but you don't see him making any runs.
With a shirt on, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like, I saw none of him against literally none of Harry Kane. And he only wanted to play like towards the end of the game, which is like toe up, man.
But that you can see that Conte will not stand for that.
Exactly.
He will want Kane to give 1,000,000%. And if he doesn't, he'll be the first one to say, you know what, Daniel, let's sell this bastard. We'll get all the money we can get out of him. So, I think that Spurs have got a manager who is as big as they think they are. If that makes any sense. No, but you get
I'll take it as a compliment.
That is perfect.
It is as backhanded a compliment as possible, because Spurs see themselves as a big team, and Conte is a big manager, but he doesn't have the same level of ego as a Mourinho where you're strutting his stuff. He's out there and he's going to shout at you and really make you work for it. And if you're not going to work for it, then why did you bother coming into work in the first place? So I think Conte will really reinvigorate Spurs. And I'm going to say something that no London club should ever say. I am happy to see a good manager at Spurs because we need more competition in this league. It can't be that the Liverpools and Man Cities run away with things all the time, and dare I say Chelsea's. We need to have more.
Top of the log.
And you also don't want a rebuilding situation like Arsenal, where we're like trudging along and nobody cares about us.
I'll tell you,
but we're in top 6, so that's
you guys aren't doing
Arsenal
that
are doing
bad.
well.
Yeah.
A compliment.
The way, and obviously there's a lot being said about Arteta and Arsenal now, and things look like they're coming together. You don't want to speak too quickly. I mean, what is it? 8 games unbeaten? 8 or 9?
8, 9.
So
what is it? 8, 9. Carabao, yeah. Sorry.
You've seen what Arteta's doing now, and I saw someone saying, but like Arsenal now, you now know whose Arsenal best 11 is. You know what he's going to do when he gets on the pitch. You know the way they play, whereas previously they never knew that, and it's taken him 2 years, whatever it is, to get here. But
and a beating by Brentford.
Yeah, like I will always try and find something to take Arsenal apart on, but when I watched Arsenal versus Leicester on Saturday and I watched Spurs versus United on Saturday, I knew
worlds apart
who I would rather be.
Even crazier. But the thing is, and I think it's a bit of a false dawn if I'm being totally honest here. I think that Arsenal have been better than people made them out to be, but I don't think they're as good as people expect them to be. And I think it's a weird space that they're in, because that Leicester team is underperforming so badly they've hit the Brendan Rodgers wall, where he's given everything he can, and you cannot actually see who's going to make this team better. Because where does Leicester's creation come from? James Maddison,
Yuri
Harvey
Tielemans.
Barnes.
Not playing anything.
Tielemans is
Yuri
the only one
Tielemans.
who's giving. He's the only one who's giving them something.
Yeah.
But
That
Maddison
guy's
and Barnes have
fantastic.
been the main
Yeah,
guys,
Barnes.
and they've been nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And they've needed the likes of Jamie Vardy to come up with magic. I don't know how he does it. No one knows how he does it, but he carries on doing it. And that's going to stop at some point. And then you're going to start looking at the Iheanachos and the Patson Dakas, and you're going to be like, okay, give us something. And they're just missing something. And I think that's where Arsenal have managed to capitalize. Emile Smith-Rowe is one of the great young players in this league, and will be
I don't
lighting
get
it
how
up for
he
years
doesn't
to
have
come.
an England cap yet. I really don't get it.
I know exactly how.
Because he has time.
There's plenty of other young players who are out there doing stuff. He will get capped soon. There's no
Who
question
does he
about
replace
it,
in
because-
England? That's the
Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, look,
You're right.
Form-wise, that makes sense, but he's not going to do it from a reputation perspective. He's just not going
true.
to replace Jadon
Because
Sancho.
we're a
So,
small club. We're not gargantuan.
no,
And we
and
are.
we know this.
We are. Spurs are now gargantuan.
No. You've got a gargantuan manager.
Wow.
You've got a gargantuan
Wow, I
manager.
haven't even played
You
a
haven't
game
gotten
yet.
there yet.
Only talk to me in
Take it
Italian.
easy.
That's how you speak to me from now on.
Okay. Buongiorno. That's all I know.
Buongiorno.
But okay,
Pizza.
with all the Italian talk and everything else, and Spurs going crazy, that's pretty much all I can take for the day. Talking about how Spurs are good. Dean, I wish you all the best with your team and your manager. St. Totteringham's Day is still around the corner. Just letting you know right now. But outside of that, thank you very much, Sai. Thanks, Tsepo. And thanks, Dean, for this edition of the Cheap Seats. Remember, we've got the FPL edition that happens tomorrow, where we'll be letting you know what we need to do because the deadline's on Friday. And I feel that a certain West Ham pair may be split up going forward. But outside of that, thank you very much. Have a great day. And le sale, kakahiso.